And I'm back with more information that may be very helpful for you during this crazy time that we're in. Now, in this episode, I will be going over some of the things that's going on in the world, and we all know what's going on in the world right now, that may be affecting the number of downloads you're getting on your podcast and what specifically you can do about it. So we'll get into that today. So hey there, I am your podcast professor, Tom, or Robots, part of the Robots Radio Network. In fact, I'm the guy that runs the network, and I do a bunch of shows on the network. So if this episode of the Podcast Professor is interesting or effective in any way in helping you out, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel, giving it a like, and if you're listening on the audio version of the podcast, subscribe to that as well. So here we go. What is going on in the world? Well, we have people changing their schedules, and you've probably noticed from about the middle of March through to about now that you've seen a decline in the number of downloads that you're getting for each episode of your podcast. And this decline ranges anywhere from about 10% to 30%. And initially, I noticed this when there was an article that went up on a website about podcasting that they basically looked across many of the different shows that they are connected to and saw an average of 10 to 15% decrease within the first few weeks of the pandemic stuff that's going on, right? This was back at the end of March. So since then, I've taken a look at the different podcasts that I do, and I've noticed that some shows have seen even up to a 30% decrease in listenership. Now, they're starting to bounce back a little bit as people's schedules have adjusted, as people are starting to go back to work, those kinds of things. But for the most part, you're probably seeing something very similar. And you may be wondering, what can I do about this? Because it's not really your fault if people's schedules have changed or if they have other things on their mind and they're just not able to listen to your episodes in a regular way like they were before. And let's be honest. People are losing their jobs, or people can't go to work, so they can't listen in their cars while they're driving to work anymore. Their schedules are different. They might not be able to go to the gym, so they're not working out. The kinds of things that they're doing when they listen to podcasts just aren't happening as much. So what can you do about it? So I've got some tips. I've got 4 tips here to get you started. And I love doing this, the number after I say it, because I think that's funny. But anyway, 4 tips to get you started getting your numbers back up to where you might want them to be and continuing to grow again. So our first tip here is to, first of all, don't give up. Don't do less shows. Don't take a break. And if you have taken a break, get a new episode of your show up as fast as possible. People need to know when they come back to your show that it's still there. You do not want people unsubscribing, thinking that you gave up, and looking for other shows to listen to. Keep your activity going. So that's the first one. The second one here is to double down on your quality. This is important because you are competing, and this is a general recommendation all over the place anyway, but in a time like this, when they are coming back to your show for the first time and maybe they've got 4, 8, 10 episodes to catch up on, you want to make sure when they listen to the most recent one that it is extraordinary, that you are now competing with a backlog across all the other shows that they've listened to. And when they try yours out, you want to be at the top of their list because people will binge through the rest of those episodes and you'll see your numbers increase. So double down on quality, spend some more time editing your show. Make sure that it is absolutely what you think is 100% of what you want, or at least 98% of the way there. Make sure that you're buying good equipment. If you can invest in new equipment, now might be the time. Make sure that you are studying how to edit and do post-production. Make sure that you are being as efficient as you can with the format of your show, that you're getting the best guests on that you possibly can, that you're covering topics that are timely and interesting to your audience. You do all of that, and now you're standing at the top of the list of the pile of things that they're trying to get back through. So double down on quality. That's an absolute huge one. Absolutely huge. Hugely absolute. Absolutely biggest. Okay, I'm going to stop with that. All right, so the third one here is now is a great time to reach out to guests because things are different. The world is different, and your guests most likely will have things to say. I almost said most likely, like most likely. And your guests will most likely have things to say. So send out messages, and it may be difficult to get hold of certain people, but send out messages, come up with a list, and reach out to a number of different people that you've been wanting to get on your show, and then start scheduling them. And a lot of this sounds like a lot of work, and honestly it is, but if you're going to be doing the best podcast that you possibly can, then it's going to be a lot of work. But here's the thing, chances are it's fun. Chances are you like talking to these people, and you want to be putting out better episodes, and you want to be getting feedback from your audience that says, holy crap, this show is awesome. I've really liked it. And it continues to improve. That's really, really good stuff. Now, guests are also important because you are reaching out to their audience as well. People who haven't been able to do a whole lot are going to be more likely to promote the fact that they are now guesting on an episode of your podcast. So that's very beneficial for that reason as well. Now, here's the last thing. It is important to create evergreen content. And what do I mean by evergreen content? If you're doing a show that is about recent news and people are taking 2-3 months break from that show, they're not going to go back and listen to the previous episodes, most likely, because that news is now stale. So add something to your podcast that makes it evergreen, and put that at the beginning, put that at the front of your episode. What is something that 5 months from now, 3 months from now, 10 months from now, years from now will still be beneficial for people to hear? And that's where interviews can be great, because you get a guest that people want to hear from on your show. That information is still beneficial a year from now, 10 years from now, if they're a good enough guest. Think about what other things you can be doing that create evergreen content, because those are reasons that people will come back to your show. Now, I'm going to finish this up. Those are the 4 points. I'm going to finish this up with a point that I think is also important, because some of you might be thinking, okay, well, things are opening back up. Things are going back to normal. How is this going to help me if the world goes back to the way it's supposed to be just this next month or two, right? And my suspicions here are that that's not the case. We don't have a vaccine yet. We don't have a solution. And we have a lot of places that are opening up prematurely. So mark my words, you guys are going to come back to this video in a few months and you're going to say, I wish I did this, because we're going to see that this continues a lot longer than we wanted it to. So that's unfortunate, but it's a reality that we need to be prepared for as podcasters, in order to make sure that we are serving our audience and that we are preparing for the worst. We are, as podcasters, we are business people. We are running a business. You are creating a product. You are putting something out into the world for people to consume. And you can either look at that as being something that you're putting out there on a kind of casual basis and kind of just doing your thing. And if you do it that way, that's great. And if that's all you want to do, that's fine. But you're only going to see a certain amount of success that way. My guess is if you're tuning into videos like this, it's because you genuinely care about your product and about doing a absolutely great job with your product. And if that's the case, then put the work in. Consider what the absolute worst case scenario is and prepare for it. That's what business owners do. That's what people who care about making sure that they are still in business in the future do. So I want to see all of you succeed. I want to see all of your podcasts continue to go up. I want to see my podcasts continue to go up in viewership. And I want people to reach out to you and say, holy crap, I'm glad you didn't stop. I'm glad I have all these episodes to binge now that I'm back. And I can't wait to get more information from you about the things that I want to listen to on your show. So those are my tips. If this has been helpful or informative in any way, please consider leaving a thumbs up on the video, subscribing to the channel, reviewing the Podcast Professor on your podcatcher if you're listening to the audio version of this. And also, the other thing that you can do to really, really help me out is share this with a friend. Share the video, share the podcast, and tell your friends who are podcasters or your co-podcasters, hey, go listen to this show because it's got a lot of great tips and it'll help us continue to make a better product. And that, you know what? And this guy's a lot like we are, because he started where we did. And he's not one of those like gigantic YouTubers and gigantic podcasters out there who is no longer, his feet are no longer basically in reality, right? He's a lot like us, and he has a lot, well, I guess I'm talking in the third person about myself. I've got a lot I can share with you guys. So I hope you tune back in the future. And until next time, good luck podcasting. Talk to you later.